Hello everyone and welcome to the Improvement Key podcast. I'm your host Salam and this is the episode 0. I'm really excited to do this. I'm really happy and I'm grateful for this opportunity that I could do, and it was always my dream to start a podcast, and it was very difficult for me. It's difficult for everyone. I understand it's a very different time. It's a different time in all around the world with this COVID-19, this pandemic happening, and it's really tough. It's tough economically, emotionally, and everybody is in a different state than they were, and they didn't expect many of the things that happened to them this year. But I believe we can do good things. I believe no matter how bad the situation is, there's always room for improvement, for bettering ourselves, and for opportunity. So before talking it all out, I want to say I'm sorry if there was any mispronunciation or any mistake from my part. But I believe starting and those mistakes can make you better. Then that could improve you. So part of that saying is to myself, because I took some time for waiting out, and that's a big mistake. One of the keys for improvement is starting before you're ready. Have you ever been in that situation when you plan something so much and you end up not doing it or not spending half of the time doing the thing? So the key is to be better. One of the key to be better in any field or anything is just starting and doing it. You might be a perfectionist. You might want for the perfect moment, that perfect state, but you should punch perfection in the face. Perfection is not your friend. Just to tell you what are the things that you might face, it could be one of them, it could be fear, the fear of starting. So you might actually subconsciously at the state trying to avoid starting. That could be in your mind that you should not be afraid. You should not be afraid of that. Fear is the enemy as well. So you might think, well, how can you overcome fear? And that's by starting. That's by building momentum. Once you start something, even no matter how bad you are at it in the beginning, once you start, you build momentum as you go. So it's also the same thing is applied into entrepreneurship and business. If you think about it, there is in the professional startup communities, there's a very known word, MVP, minimum viable product. And what that means is many startups waste years or months or a lot of time on a project, on a product, and at the end they see it's not wanted by the market. The market doesn't need what they built, and they spend so much time on extra features. They spend so much time, energy, effort, and dollars on that project, and eventually it fails before it even goes out. So what's really important is building an MVP, a minimum viable product, a product that has all the basic features without an extra thing, so that you can just test it and go to the market and validate your theories. And so getting it all back together, this episode will mostly be about starting the project, starting the idea, starting anything that you think of. How can you do it? So we learned as number one, we should start before we are ready, and we should try to remove perfectionism in our mind, to punch it in the face, and to build momentum and destroying fear. But one of the most important things as well, you don't know what you don't know. Unless you start, you will not know the things that you need to do or the things you need to plan. So it's really important to start the project. So there's this state people will be, especially when they start the business. In that state, it's over planning. Over planning, it's a very big problem that can kill your business idea, that can kill everything that you are trying to do. It makes you inflexible. It makes you worry. It will lead you to overthinking, which in turn makes you worry more. So it's really important to put your excuses on the table, no excuses, and just start doing. This episode might not be perfect. It's my first one. I totally acknowledge that, but I will start and keep going at it and build the momentum. I'm sure this episode 0 at episode 100, it will be totally different. I can bring you so much more value. So, starting a bit about myself, I am a young entrepreneur. I am from Erbil, that's a city in Kurdistan region of Iraq, in the country of Iraq. My Kurdish ethnicity, which is an ethnicity of huge past and history of 40 million people. We don't have a country of our own yet, but we are very passionate and strong people. So a little bit more about myself. I started my first business when I was 19 years old. I've started many projects and I worked on many projects, but I am currently the co-founder actually and CEO of Meraki Ventures, which is a general trading arm marketing company. So as I said, I'm really excited to do this, and this little bit more about what we are going to do in this podcast and what did you sign up for. This podcast will be a weekly business podcast. I will share everything. I will share the knowledge. I will share everything I learned, my experience. It will be a long journey, and I will also bring the best people on the show. I'll bring people with exceptional talent to talk about their experience in business and in life. We will bring a very successful people to this podcast to give you value. So we are going to bring people who had impact, international impact or national. We are going to learn. It will be a journey with me. We are going to learn as much as we can and benefit from other people's experience, professional people experience, as well as I will share along the way everything I learned. So you can think of it as well as I'm documenting my journey, and along the way I'm sharing everything that I'm going through and everything from the guests that I'm going to bring to this podcast. I'm really happy, and so let's go for the key takeaways for this episode, and I will tell you that number 1, start before you are ready. Number 2, don't be a perfectionist and build momentum to destroy fear and put your excuses on the table. Start before you are ready. This is the Improvement Key Podcast. Until the next episode, bye-bye.